Hey, welcome to the Digital Insurance Agent Podcast. So glad you've chosen to join us today. And with me is Tara Meehan, and she is an expert in all things dealing with LinkedIn, especially as it comes to the financial advising world. She is a chief marketing officer, and fractional CMO is really her specialization. I'm going to let her tell you more about that. So, Tara, glad to have you with us. And why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background and how you got into the fractional CMO world?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this. How did I get into the fractional world? Well, I've been in marketing overall for about 18 years, financial services marketing for 13, and got into it really by happenstance. I was a copywriter with a performance marketing agency, and when that contract ended, I was recruited to join the social team of a mutual life insurance company, and didn't think that I would stay in the industry very long. I thought it was just a stepping stone to something else, something more exciting. I didn't think that financial services was going to be all that engaging. And I was completely wrong. I fell in love with financial services pretty much straight away, and really enjoyed, especially working with financial advisors specifically, because from my experience, one of the things that's most appealing with working with advisors is they are truly devoted to their clients, and they really want to make sure that everybody is optimally positioned to advance in their lives from a financial point of view. So to be able to come from humble beginnings, my mom's a single parent. She struggled with finances, and I wish that she had an advisor back in the day. But to be able to help advisors position themselves to be successful, to get in front of as many people as possible, to to showcase their expertise and help people move forward with their lives was very appealing to me. And to do it in a fractional capacity, kind of leaving myself open to enjoy other things in my life, make other connections, do some more networking, hang out with my dogs, has always been of great interest and value to me. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Excellent. Yeah, you're finding a way to really get the most out of life, not just pour everything into your profession. So I
Right.
applaud you in that as well. Uh, so let's talk about that. You kind of dove into that a little bit. What drew you into working with the financial services professionals, but what are some of the unique challenges and opportunities that you're currently seeing in the industry? What are some of the things that your clients are facing, and just that you're observing, as you watch others?
Well, I think a classic pain point for advisors and really anybody working in the financial services space or wealth management is getting in front of people, whether it's new people or managing an existing book of business, because you're being pulled in all different directions. There's the allure of fintech and insure tech and wealth tech, and those things are all great, but I think they could be distracting for advisors who really aren't sure what they're supposed to be doing from a marketing perspective or a brand perspective. Um, so I think that's one area where I see that advisors are the interest is trending, but they may not have the bandwidth to really focus on those things, which is where someone like me comes in to kind of help them understand that the best way forward in helping their clients is to invest in themselves as well. So I see that being somewhat of a shift in the industry, and then you bring in something like AI into the mix, which is the new, uh, the shiny object in the room, and it has its place certainly, but I think there's a risk involved in investing too far into it because you could potentially lose your authentic voice. So to kind of be able to balance both the advancing technologies and the emerging technologies with really putting your authentic self out there is a struggle, I think, or a challenge for advisors. So to be able to work with them to help them understand how to navigate those two worlds is something that I personally enjoy, and I think it's something that's definitely shifting in the industry overall.
Good. One of the things you and I had talked about, we kind of looked at a list of topics, and we decided to kind of land on LinkedIn as our focus for this conversation. Um, Especially with so much noise out there, and you bring up AI, and I think AI has just polluted the noise in the environment. And so part of what we'll kind of drill into is the need to create that brand for yourself, to stand out in that noise, and not just simply rely on the brand of your firm or your agency, those types of things. And so let's kind of get into that. Let's start with kind of the 30,000 foot view of LinkedIn. What is the true purpose of LinkedIn? Is it just a place to deposit your resume, or is it so much more than that?
It's a lot more than that. LinkedIn is really the one-to-one networking tool. It's definitely the biggest business networking site, especially specifically on social media there is. Um, uh, it has a place, obviously, in terms of job searching and recruiting. But really, even when you're doing that, when you're looking for a job, when you're uploading your resume, people are going back to your profile to see exactly who you are. What are the things that you believe in? What do you stand for? What do you enjoy sharing? What's the makeup of your network? It's those things, and being able to leverage the relationships and the connections you have. That's the power of it. And I'm surprised that even now in 2024, um, we still have this idea or this view, this common view that LinkedIn is really just a place for companies to post content about what they do, or for people to search for jobs. Obviously, there's a place for that, but the power of it is definitely in the one-to-one networking.
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people miss is, LinkedIn is the place that we've kind of moved our, traditional, uh, I call it belly to belly interactions, and we've taken them online if we use it correctly. And I think a lot of business owners, a lot of people in our industry miss that concept, that this is your place to network. This is your place to, in times past, grow the Rolodex, so to speak,
Mm.
through LinkedIn. So fantastic. Let's talk about, one of the things that you and I delved into in our initial conversation was developing a comprehensive LinkedIn strategy. And, I think one of the things that you would probably uh, echo is most people don't have a strategy for LinkedIn. It's a platform. They've got a profile there. Um, Other than that, there's no strategy behind it. So
Right.
let's talk about that. What does a comprehensive strategy look like?
Well, I think it's four parts. So you start with profile optimization, which is just a fancy way of saying to own your personal and professional brand and have it translated on your profile. So having a first person conversation with the people who are coming to your profile, so they have an idea of who you are, um, and um, that's encompassing four key questions on your profile that you want to answer in your summary section or your about us section. And we can dive into this a little bit in more detail in a few minutes, but it's four questions like who you are, what you do, why you love what you do, and how you make a difference in the lives of the people you work with or serve. Um, Having that as a framework really helps you build out your story. And then you want to make sure that that story aligns to the services and the products or the value proposition that you put forward on your other channels. So you want it to be a continuation of your story, not just one piece of it. So you want it to align with what's on your website, or what's on your other social channels, or what's on your email newsletter. It's the main place, though, for people to really get a sense of who you are from a business perspective. So that's the first piece. Then once you have your profile all cleaned up and ready to go, it's your opportunity to use it to maybe introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to the people in your existing network. I don't think it'll come as a surprise to you or anybody really watching this that the bulk of many people's connections in their network are people they have no idea how they connected with in the first place. There was a time where it was like, oh, I'm going to send you a connection request and you're going to accept it. And I'm going to pad my numbers and this is great. I have like 3,000 connections. But if you don't know who those people are, they provide no value for you because the root of what makes a network strong is the ability to ask people for introductions and referrals. So if you don't know who the people are in your network, really having a conversation with them to say, hey, something as simple as, I don't know how we connected in the first place, kind of embarrassing. But I would love to get a sense of maybe how we did, if you remember, or what it is that you do, and I can share what I do, and we can just have a chat. Nothing salesy, nothing over the top, but just a way to, again, introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to people that you may not have had contact with in a long time or may have never had contact with to begin with. So once you do those two things, and again, the profile being the core of that, because if you start to reach out to these people, they're probably going to go to your profile and just kind of get a sense of who you are. Third piece of that is the fun part of LinkedIn, where the networking really comes into play. And it's asking for introductions or referrals. So being able to prepare for a client meeting or to search a company that you've been trying to get in the door on, or really just kind of searching uh, the platform for a certain profession in a certain area. When you do that, ultimately you're going to find out that you have maybe some first degree connections, but usually some second and third degree connections that you can leverage uh, for additional networking with people who you share those relationships with. That's the power of the platform, and that's where the fun comes in. And then the last piece of the puzzle is content. So basically, everything that you have set up to this point, you then use content as a way to create conversations based around your value proposition, the way you have your brand established and set up, your passions, the passions of the people in your network, and a way to kind of get those conversations going. And not just content where you are being proactive, but content where you're kind of sitting back and listening to the people in your network. What are they talking about? What are things that are important to them? Is it in alignment with who you think is actually in your network? These are all things that come about when you really put all those pieces into play. And yeah, I have, you have clients and stuff who are like, well, I don't know if I'm really prepared to do a full comprehensive strategy. And I'll say, well, that's fine. But if you're going to do nothing else, really work on that profile because it really is your first introduction and you never get a second chance to make a great first impression.
I think that's excellent. That first impression and what are people going to think of you? I think the other thing, and let's kind of talk about this for a second. I think everybody's experienced this a little bit if they've been on LinkedIn. Is a lot of people just lead off with the pitch,
Yep.
and they have forgotten about networking. It's I want to connect with you, and then I want you to marry me,
Yeah.
and
There's
I
no
don't know
dating.
anything, don't know anything about you, don't know
Yeah.
anything about your business, and so there is a we'll dive into this a little more, but we really want to put the networking back in networking. It is a
Yeah.
place to develop relationships and build that. And there's an old saying: your net worth and your network
Yep.
are intertwined.
Hmm.
And so great advice for us there. So let's talk a little more on this topic about creating a compelling first impression. I'm going to hit one that you didn't bring up:
Yeah.
profile picture. What should
Hmm.
be there? Uh, Professional headshot, casual, should you be at the beach? Like what's appropriate for LinkedIn? Should it be the same thing you have on your Facebook?
Right. No. And it shouldn't be the picture of you on the beach unless you are a professional lifeguard or you're an Olympic surfer. Like, those are the only places I think it's appropriate. I think post COVID, um, the we've kind of relaxed a little bit in terms of what's an appropriate LinkedIn headshot. Um, I think the whole buttoned up corporate biopic can actually be a little off-putting for people on LinkedIn because again, you're trying to have that one-to-one connection with someone. And if you are not comfortable in a suit and tie or like highly professional buttoned up attire, people are going to be able to see it and they're going to know. So I don't think you should look like you just jumped out of the shower or you're in your robe, but present yourself in a way that conveys who you are authentically, but again, puts you in the best possible light from a professional standpoint. You want the image to be clear, you want to smile, you want to look like you actually care about the other person who's on the other end of that experience, seeing you for the first time. I know people who use their wedding photo for their profile pic or the picture of their pet turtle. I would say don't do that. Focus on you because this is your profile. Save that for LinkedIn, save that for Insta, save that for any other social network. But you really want to make a good professional first impression, and the way to do that is to think about it as an interview. What would you wear to get the job you've always wanted? And I think that's the good way to approach what your LinkedIn
Good,
headshot should
good. Yeah, I think one of the other things I might add to that, good lighting, high
be.
quality picture.
Yes.
I think there's just little things that we need to be thinking about. So great, great stuff. So let's talk about your existing network. Everybody's got existing connections, and one of the things you talk about is mining that existing network. So how can individuals effectively mine their existing network on LinkedIn?
So when I was with the mutual life insurance company I was with for many years, social team, we came up with a strategy around what was called the ABCs of LinkedIn. And it's something that I've used on my own. I use it with clients and it's been successful. Basically, it's a way to make the process of going through your network and introducing yourself and reintroducing yourself to them a bit more manageable and less daunting. So you go through the alphabet like once a week. You go through all your connections with the last name A to start. And inevitably, what's going to happen is you're going to see people that you know very well. Maybe they're friends of yours. You don't have to really worry about them too much because you know them socially. They probably know what you do. You can obviously bring it up a little bit, but that's not a source of that's not a group where you really need to be too focused on in terms of building your network because those conversations kind of happen organically. The two categories where you do want to really focus on being strategic are the people that you may know well enough, but you haven't spoken to in a really long time. And then there's the people that you absolutely don't know at all. And these are two very big opportunities to strengthen your network. So I'll provide messaging for my clients to say, okay, in the scenario where you knew someone, but you're not quite sure how you connected, or you haven't, reached out to each other in a while, say something to the effect of, hey, it's been a while. It's been a minute since we spoke. I think the last time was in such and such a year at such and such an event. Um, things have been pretty uh, busy in my life. I've had some changes. We all get busy. We all kind of get focused on other things. Would love to kind of get a sense of where you're at and just kind of reconnect and see if we can be of mutual benefit. Nothing salesy. You're not leaving your phone number and your email address and all the different ways that someone can book a time with you. You're just having a conversation. So that's one pathway. The other pathway is when you have no idea how you're connected to the person in the first place. And so that's where you kind of use the language to say, hey, it's weird to say this, but I'm really not quite sure how we connected in the first place. And I've been kind of going through my network and trying to figure out a way to clean it up, make it stronger, not just for me, but for the people in it. would you be open to like a 15-minute chat to kind of maybe see if we can remember how we got to know each other or how we connected in the first place and get to know each other a little bit better. Most times people are going to be very receptive to that. I've worked with clients in my own life, where as long as it's no, there's no salesy intent and people can't smell commission breath on the other end of the message, they're more than happy to reconnect and get that conversation flowing. And in the event where in either scenario they don't respond at all, that's fine. But what I actually recommend agents and advisors do is just disconnect with that person. Or as they, will say sometimes, oh, you want me to break up with this person? I'm like, well, yeah, because you're not getting any value from this person. They're not getting any value from you. It's not like they can call you on the phone and say, hey, would you recommend me to this potential client? You couldn't do that with them because they don't know you. So there's this feeling of, oh, I'm potentially missing out on something that could be. But if uh, there's no pathway forward or no progress in terms of building that relationship, it's just weighing down your network, and it's not giving you the value that it could potentially give you when you do reach out to these people for introductions to others. So that's what I mean by mining an existing network.
Excellent. And you mentioned doing that on a regular basis. What's kind of your recommendation? How frequently should that be done?
Well, if you're going to follow the whole ABC structure, if you're really ambitious, and people can do this in a 26-week span because 26 letters in the alphabet, you give yourself 1 week for the A's, 1 week for the B's. I think advisors and agents are pretty busy people, and they're trying to wear multiple hats, and they have client meetings, and they're going to events, and maybe they're trying to be published, and they have their families and their personal interests. So if you can kind of commit to doing this, even with the first letter A, or in just over a month period, you can have this done and really kind of focus on it, in a way that is much more manageable time wise. Um, and hopefully, as your network grows, you kind of get into a habit of from the jump, getting to know your connections a bit better and being much more intentional with the ones that you connect with. So I think there's a heavy lift at first, and definitely a time commitment that has to be accounted for. But once you kind of get in that flow, it really just kind of takes care of itself.
Good. And then with that existing network, the next step obviously is to ask for introductions.
Mhm.
Who else do they know?
Right.
And you've got an approach for that as well. Can you share a little bit about that, step by step approach to prepare with the intent of using that to ask for those introductions?
Sure. So when I'm working with an agent or an advisor, we always come about it like from the perspective of what's your calendar look like next week, and then just going through and seeing what meetings you have with clients or COIs, but usually with existing clients, um, and preparing a week ahead. So say you have a meeting on Friday with John Black, right? And it's Monday. So prepare for that meeting by going to John Black's LinkedIn profile. Hopefully, John shares his connections, but even if he doesn't, there are ways around that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But ideally, he shares his connections. So then you can click on the little blue icon in the number of connections, and then that brings you to a way. And this is on basic accounts. There are different ways to do this on premium accounts, but um, and there's a place for premium accounts, but we're just going to focus on the example of you're on a free basic account. Um, Click on their connections, and then you get to a screen where you're able to filter down and wean down from that main list, main number of connections, and kind of get very intentional with the way you want to see who this person is connected to. So if you want to get in front of more partners at a law firm, maybe you use partner as a title to search off of, and you look for partners in a certain city. Maybe they graduated from a certain college. You can get as really as granular as you want, and you'll go from maybe having 7,000 connections in common to something much more manageable to like 30. And it's like, oh, okay, so let me look through this list of 30 people and then compare those people to who your ideal client is. And then when you're on the meeting with your client, do a screen share at the end of it and say, hey, I know in the past I've asked you if you know anybody who could benefit from what I offer in terms of financial advice. But I feel like I was giving you homework to do. So I did the homework myself and I found these people. Would you be able to give me a sense of who on this list could really benefit from what I do? And if you're okay with that, would you be willing to introduce me to those people? Or could I name drop you in a connection request that I send to them? Doing that, especially when the connections have profile pics, you can see who they are, and it kind of refreshes the memory of the person on the other end of the client to say, oh, Anne just moved. She just bought a house. I know she's definitely interested in different protection products now that she has that asset. Or, oh, Jill just got a new job. That's a rollover opportunity. Or Beth is getting ready to have her second kid. It could be a life insurance or disability product opportunity. So taking the work away from the client or the COI in having them potentially give you instructions is a strategy that's worked and really kind of sets you apart as the advisor or the agent because you're showing that you do care about the time that your client has, and so you're doing the work for them. And then if by chance the client doesn't share their connections, all is not lost. You can see who that person works for. So maybe John Black is employed by uh, the Black law firm or Dr. Black Associates, just throwing fake names out there. You can then go to that company's company page and you can see all the employees or everyone who is associated with that. And then you'll be able to see who you share connections with. So it's just kind of a cheat in a way to use that company route. And it's actually one of the more powerful routes you can take because not only is it potentially giving you introductions to new clients, but it's showing you a way in at the company level, especially if you work in employee benefits or something like that. So the introductions piece is definitely the most exciting part of the process. And I think it's the piece where people are like, their eyes get open, like, oh, wow. You mean tell me I can get in front of people that I had no idea were even out there? And it's like, yeah, you can. And all of a sudden their eyes are like, oh, this is great.
That's cool.
So that's the fun part.
Excellent. So let's get into content.
Okay.
Almost similar to the profile question. So,
Yeah.
what type of content works best on LinkedIn? So am I sharing my vacation pictures? Am I sharing the same stuff I'm posting on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok? And what works best on LinkedIn?
Well, there are a few schools of thought to that. I like to kind of think of it as like a 70-30 type of thing because this is one-to-one networking and people do want to do business with human beings. Um, Obviously lead with the professional headshot in the profile, but don't be afraid to share photos and content around the things that are of personal interest to you because it just showcases you as a well-rounded person. So maybe 30% of that can be I took a vacation with my kids to the Grand Canyon. Kind of shows that you are outdoorsy, that you value time with your kids. It just kind of sets you up in a way. And it doesn't have to be everything's not a strategy, but it does show you're a human and you like to do things outside of work, and that appeals to a lot of people. And then the 70% can be the other 70% could be content that is relevant to what you do. So a way to showcase your subject matter expertise and kind of build that thought leadership piece for your personal and professional brand. But it's also an opportunity for you to share content that's going to resonate with the target markets that you want to do business with. So if you want to build up uh, your network of attorneys, um, you can leverage content that's going to be relevant to them and how to position their businesses, their law practices. but also use client testimonials to prove that you are a valuable resource to people in that target market. And by having them tagged in a post with the testimonial, you're then expanding your reach to people in their network, which will likely be full of attorneys and other people in law. So there are ways to be strategic with your content that doesn't mean you have to kind of play to the algorithms necessarily. Like you don't have to the the thing that's driving me crazy at the moment is the out of context selfie that people are using. It's like, why are we doing that? I understand that it does work the algorithm,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make any sense. And I think that's good. That kind of thing is going to start to backfire. So if you share content that's going to be of value to the people in your network, that positions you as a subject matter expert and showcases you as a well-rounded individual, that's a good place to start.
Excellent. Yeah, I think this point of being the expert is critical,
Mhm.
and demonstrating your expertise. I always encourage our clients, answer the question, why you? Out of all the choices out there, why
Yep.
you? And I think that's critical. And that brings us really to the next piece here, and as we hit into this, AI is out here. So where does AI play a part in that content creation? How do we leverage that and yet remain authentic to who we are, to our messaging, and to the message that we want to communicate to our audience?
Mhm. Well, AI definitely has its place, and it's only going to grow. What makes me cringe a bit in terms of how AI is integrated into LinkedIn is that it removes the authentic voice of yours and replaces it with something that doesn't sound like you at all, is very broad based and robotic, and people can smell it a mile away. I think the biggest pitfall of AI with LinkedIn is when people use it and use automation technology for lead generation and just start peppering people with connection requests. I've gotten them on my own where I'll get a connection request saying, because you've been in the construction business for such a long time, I thought we could connect. And I'm like, I've never been in the construction business. Like, so why are you sending me this? And it's just a laziness that we rely on AI instead of doing the work of actual networking. Um, like back in the day, people had to pick up the phone, or they had to go to events, and they had to really put themselves out there on a human to human basis, on a one to one basis. You can do that on LinkedIn, but if you're using technology to replace your voice, you're really risking severe damage to your brand. AI is important in terms of ideation. So if you are struggling with what kind of social posts you want to put out there, um, or you think your profile is a little bit too long and you want advice on how to shorten it, make it a little bit crisper, that's where AI, I think, really comes in handy. Being able to clarify your message or to give you bullet points on things like blogs or social posts around a given topic, uh, but using it as a draft, not using it as, oh, this is what um, the chat bot messenger thing told me to share, and so I'm just going to put it out there. Um, it's a framework. It's for ideas. It's for thoughts. It's for conciseness, but it should not in any way replace your authentic voice, which is why it kind of gives me a little bit of pause that LinkedIn is using the AI feature in their posts now. I hear it's gotten mixed results. I used it once just to kind of see what it would look like, and it just sounded very robotic to me and nothing like me. So I won't be using that until they make, if they ever make, advancements in making that seem a bit more human.
Absolutely. And what would if you were to just advise, you kind of hit on those, just we were to say maybe the top two or three best practices. If you're going to implement AI, where should you use it? Idea generation, fine tuning,
Mhm.
any other, pieces of just best practice where maybe AI could be helpful?
Yeah, I've used it just outside of LinkedIn. For a second, I've used it for SEO, competitive research, keyword research, and competitor analysis to give me a sense of what um, the priority keywords and the secondary keywords would be for a certain industry or a certain website that we're trying to build for risk management or wealth management. In that area, I think it's very good and it's helpful to get ideas around different subject headings for emails. A way to, again, take big chunk of text and break it up to be a bit more readable and maybe less verbose. And for blogs too, I think if you have um, a monthly blog, but you're struggling with different topics, it could be a place that it can give you that information and give you the bullet points and maybe even a draft of something. But again, you should never just take the draft that it gives you. You really need to put it in your voice. So it takes a lot of the upfront work away, but you still have to kind of put in your voice to make it sound like you. So those are some areas and some best practices, I think, where people can benefit from using AI effectively.
Excellent. And let's kind of shift gears here. You brushed on this a few minutes ago. Premium versus basic accounts. What are the main differences in a premium account versus a basic account? I know there's things like Sales Navigator.
Mhm.
You can kind of give a little insight into that. And is it necessary for everyone to upgrade to a premium account, or can you navigate just fine with a basic account?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously pros and cons, the pro for LinkedIn with having premium accounts, whether they're just um, a recruiter account or just a step above basic or the holy grail navigator, having in-mail access where you can really and broaden your reach substantially. Sales Navigator is a great tool, especially for agents and advisors, for really zeroing in on industries, different uh, levels of potential client or prospect. It's I've used it and I've seen great success. We did a pilot at the mutual life insurance company that I worked with, and it definitely greatly enhanced the premium and the production of advisors. But it comes at a cost, and anything premium is going to be at a premium. You can use the lowest level of premium, but that's still going to run you a couple $100 a year. Sales Navigator can be to the thousands. So I think if you are going to go with a premium account for LinkedIn, you really need to ask yourself how invested you are in one, making the actual investment and paying the cost. How much investment in terms of your time, in terms of your expertise, do you know it well enough to really use it in a way that's going to position you for success? If you're just using it because somebody else told you to use it, you're probably going to wind up paying thousands of dollars and never use it to its full capacity. So I'd say if you are just starting out, just kind of dipping your toe into the waters of LinkedIn, you can do a lot with a basic account. You can do more with a premium account, but the basic is a good place to start. It's free, and it really kind of gives you a sense of the way you can network in a way that is a bit more manageable and maybe a little less overwhelming. You get a lot of options with premium, but sometimes you get too many options, especially when you're first starting out.
Excellent. And then, kind of talking about a little different position in LinkedIn, not what you put out there, but listening to what your audience is doing. Um, how important is that? And what are some effective ways to engage with your audience so that they know you're paying attention to what they're doing?
Yeah, no, listening is arguably way more important than actual content sharing because again, it shows that you're taking an active interest in what people are putting out there. You can listen in a way where all you're doing is liking someone's post, and that's obviously something you can do. But if you really want to be more active in your listening, then don't be afraid to comment on posts, join groups that you're interested in. And they can be business groups or they could be personal groups. I'm a member of a New York Mets group on LinkedIn. Then I'm also a member of Financial Marketers group on LinkedIn. And you don't have to go in them every day because they can be very active. Sometimes they're quite dormant, but a lot of times they're very active. And it could be kind of like a little overwhelming in terms of all the conversations, but make it a habit of going in there once a week, just seeing what people are talking about. It could give you ideas for content because now you're seeing what people are maybe struggling with, what some of the challenges are that they're facing, what some of the interests are that they have, and then you can incorporate those into your content, ways to address those and provide solutions. So listening to me is more important than sharing because you're getting a sense of what people hold important, and then you're having a way to respond to that in ways that are actionable. So definitely listening should be a core strategy of any thing you do on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. And then just, kind of as we get ready to land the plane here, any just personal success stories you've seen, using these principles, where, an advisor has applied this and really
Mhm.
seen some great success in scaling their business?
Yeah. So I worked with an advisor who had two goals. One, he wanted to advance his philanthropic footprint. So he was very active in um, community service and military charities and children's charities. But he also wanted to uh, showcase his subject matter expertise to get in front of more high net worth and ultra high net worth folks to really support his philanthropic efforts. So what we did was kind of use LinkedIn to get in front of those high net worth individuals for the purposes of um, advancing his philanthropic pursuits. So using the ABCs of LinkedIn to, again, reintroduce himself and what he stands for to people in his network. What that actually ended up doing was getting him stronger relationships with his existing connections, but also got him invited to a family office conference where there were like 4,000 family offices, and that contributed to his in I think in a quarter or something getting like six-figure production just off of uh, his LinkedIn activity, just through mining his existing network. So just doing that alone um, greatly enhanced his visibility, but also supported his philanthropic pursuits. And then from my perspective, um, when I'm trying to get in front of new clients, what I always see happen is I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll see that this person looked at my profile or this person engaged with my posts. So it's a way for them to check my subject matter expertise and my street cred on a digital level to see if um, I can walk the walk and just instead of just talking the talk. So it's definitely helped me in terms of client acquisition, and it's certainly helped the advisors that I work with.
Excellent. Excellent. So Tara, if anybody wants to connect with you, if they would like to learn more about you or set up a time to meet with you one-on-one, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can go on my consultancy's website. So it's www.meehanmarketing.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, customize the request so I know how you found me. And yeah, those are the two chief places I think for you to get to know me a bit better. And thank you for this. This was great. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks for being a part of this, and it's been great having you. Thank you for listening in to the Digital Insurance Agent, and we look forward to having you on our next episode. All right. Fantastic. Great interview,
Excellent.
and looking forward to putting this one out there. Put a lot of great nuggets out there for the audience. So
Cool. No, this was great. Really appreciate it.
awesome. I'll send you links as soon as we've got those live.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.